Thanks for coming back to another video on the Final Days channel. Today is May 7th, 2020. Today we will be viewing several different celestial objects with very different rotations, surface texture, and varying sizes. Most of these images were obtained yesterday from the Alaskan FAA weather cameras. The reason these images are being shown is so that the viewers can know that we are living in the very last days according to the Holy Bible and how to stay safe in these last days. Many of you have already seen how the black dot in the center of NASA's circular glare casts a reflection upon the water surface, proving that it's an actual piece of equipment and not a camera or lighting issue. It's necessary to understand this before moving to the next video. The east-facing camera at Thompson Pass, Alaska, shows the black beam that is always emitted prior to either an eclipse or a near eclipse. This beam is emitted for just a few seconds from the black dot center, which is the equipment that generates the circular light, tracking in front of our sun, but very close to the Earth. NASA's manufactured light illuminates nearby objects in the sky. Thus, as it passes over the red celestial object, it illuminates it. Because of the heavy atmospheric chemicals, these objects are only visible to the naked eye while being illuminated by NASA's manufactured light. The images with contrast bring out some texture on the surface of this object, making its rotation obvious. Thus, we know this cannot be a lens flare of the sun. Lens flares of the sun do not have craters, nor can we see them rotate, because our sun only rotates once every 27 Earth days. The close-up images make it easy to see that this object is rotating counterclockwise from our perspective. In just a minute, we will see another object rotating in the opposite direction. We also see that this object is traveling in the opposite direction as the sun. It is preparing to set behind the horizon as the sun rises in the morning. This was captured by the south-facing camera in the same cluster of cameras at Thompson Pass, Alaska. When we get to the images with contrast, more than one object is visible. The small bright dot that stays between our eyes on the ground and the celestial objects is the craft that is always present when there are objects to hide. This craft casts a bright pink reflection that we'll see in a couple minutes. In the Bible's book of Luke, chapter 21, verse 25, Jesus clearly tells us that we would see signs in the sky near the end of the age. Untold trillions have been spent to hide this inbound planetary system from the unknowing masses. The reason for all the deception is because the enemies of Christ do not want you to know how close to the end we are, nor do they want you to turn your life over to Jesus while you still have time. Information is at the end of this video instructing you on how to accept Christ into your life. The close proximity of these celestial orbs has caused a dramatic increase in earthquakes worldwide, even in places that never before had earthquakes. According to several seismologists, many of the earthquake monitors have actually been turned off. Many others have been adjusted to show lower magnitudes. Additionally, many earthquakes are deleted from public records if they are in areas that could create concern, such as the Cascadia subduction zone or the Yellowstone volcano, or other areas that might worry a lot of people. Between 45 and 50 volcanoes are currently erupting. Water is now spewing out from the Yellowstone volcano, and the ground has lifted up there in many places. The east-facing camera in Karlskag, Alaska, captured a gigantic object that we saw on the last video in this same camera. This time I was able to download more frames. Notice how NASA's manufactured light passes in front of this celestial object while the real sun goes behind it. And keep in mind that it would be impossible to see an object like this behind the real sun. That could never happen. We see the reflection of a bell-shaped projector that we've seen in thousands of these images. This conceals the eclipse from view. Our sun is eclipsed many times per day by many objects that are all parts of a planetary system that has now intermingled with our solar system. NASA's circular glare passes in front of these objects in order to hide these daily eclipses. We know this cannot be a lens flare of the sun because in several of these frames, this celestial object is becoming partially illuminated by the light source. A lens flare can never become partially illuminated by the object causing the lens flare. I don't have names and labels for these objects. They are definitely signs that we are living in the very last days. Here is the red orb we often see that has a surface like brain coral. As we move through this footage from the camera in Golovin, Alaska, we see the craft rushing in to hide the near eclipse that will be occurring in a couple hours. As usual, we see the black beam emitted in preparation for a near eclipse. Next, the pink reflection of the craft is visible in the bottom right corner. And as always, if we draw a line from the pink reflection of the craft to the center of the black dot, the object being hidden always falls upon that line. And in this case, it is successfully hidden from view, not even visible with contrast. Here are more images of that huge, fast-rotating, shiny orb we've seen before from this same camera. In the past, this object was rarely visible because the skies were kept under very heavy atmospheric chemicals. I really don't know why they are allowing clear viewing of this object now. For those of you who are new to this channel, I don't have comments turned on, which lowers the ratings, and I'd like to explain why. In 2018, when I allowed comments under the channel name Universal News Media, call centers were actually hired to leave thousands of profane, negative comments in order to discredit the channel, thanks to your tax dollars. I successfully blocked them all, but spent endless hours doing so. I was warned to stop, but didn't. I was banned from the FAA weather cameras, they thought. My phone was tapped. Another woman doing the same thing received death threats to her family, so she stopped. I don't have a family, so they can't use that threat. Finally, I was paid a very hostile visit where every piece of digital equipment in my home was either damaged or screwed up. I quit the channel in June 2018. That winter, a man stood up front during a special evening church service I was attending, and he said, "God has a message for someone here. He's got your back. Whoever this message is for, you know who you are. God's got your back. He's got your sides, your front, and your back. And he says, go ahead. God is giving you the green light. God's got your back." Well, I knew that message was for me. So I went ahead and I created a new channel. And my boss, the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, told me to call the channel The Final Days. He also told me to make these videos more scriptural and more evangelical. I have done as instructed. So now you have some background information on how this channel came about. If you click the thumbs up, it does help to offset the fact that comments are turned off. This year we will be dealing with some extreme earth changes. By late July we will be seeing a dramatic increase in meteorites, many plummeting to earth and causing fires. These are all God's judgments coming upon a world full of sin and abominations. The good news is that faithful followers of Christ are not appointed to God's wrath, the judgments, the plagues. Psalms 91 tells us that we will see with our eyes the judgments upon the wicked, but that it will not come near us. This is a promise from God. In Luke chapter 21, verse 36, Jesus says, "Watch therefore and pray always, that you may be counted worthy to escape all these things that will come to pass." Jesus is referring to God's wrath, the judgments, plagues. He is saying that those who are counted worthy will escape all these things, God's wrath. To be counted worthy, we must be living in holiness. A link in the description box below discusses what holiness is and how to achieve it. These next few screens will tell you how to accept Christ into your life and escape the coming judgments. Simply pause the screens if you need more time to read the text.